When I asked my audience how frequently they bake, over 52% said never to rarely. When I asked them to state a difference between cookie and cake batter, around 60% could not say a difference. Baking brownies from scratch can be an enjoyable skill if done correctly. I've been baking for around 8 years, absorbing knowledge from teachers, books, and personal experimentation. Baking for both pleasure and business, I've sold my baked goods as well as won a cookie baking contest. So there are a couple of things that you're going to need to bake brownies from scratch. You're going to need flour, a chocolate baking bar, baking soda, salt, eggs, sugar for sweetness, vanilla extract, a mixing bowl, a stirring utensil, and an oven, and then your cake tin. There are 4 main steps to baking brownies from scratch. First is mixing the ingredients, second is pre-baking preparations, third is baking the batter itself, and fourth is the finishing touches. First, I'd like to focus on mixing the batter. So in the bowl, I already have the butter and the chocolate melted down, and I'm going to add the sugar. The sugar in all this would be considered a wet ingredient, and you always usually start it off as your base because it mixes very easily together and gives a good substance to your batter. So you mix it all in well, and you want to make sure that there's no sugar or anything not mixing together. So once you have that, you add your 2 eggs. And I beat them already just because it kind of combines the egg white with the egg fat, and I'm only adding 1 egg at a time because I do not want to over add to the mixture and not mix everything incorrectly. So adding the other egg. The egg will add moisture and fluffiness to your batter. So now I'm going to add the dry ingredients, and you're going to need 3/4 a teaspoon of salt, 3/4 a teaspoon of baking soda, and 1/2 cup of all-purpose flour. I already have this in my bowl and mix it together, and when you add the flour, you usually want to just do it half first. Just like with the egg, you don't want to over add to the mixture and miss any flour that wouldn't be added to your batter. When you have all the dry ingredients mixed in, the last thing you're going to add is vanilla extract, and that's 3/4 of a teaspoon. That will add the kind of signature taste to baked goods that you're really looking for. So now that the batter is all ready and mixed up, I'm going to turn my attention to the pre-baking preparations. You're going to want to turn your oven to 350 degrees and spray the inside of your cake tin. Luckily mine's aluminum foil and I don't have to spray it. But you can either use butter or any sort of spray, butter in a can, anything to make it not stick. And there's these little bubbles in your batter that leave gaps when it bakes in the oven. So to get rid of the air bubbles, you're going to take your mixture, even it out, and then just drop it. Not too high to make a mess, but that will put enough force to make the air bubbles forcefully go up through the batter and exit through the top. So now the pre-baking preparations are ready and your oven's turned on, you're going to turn to baking the batter itself. So put the batter in middle rack for around 20 minutes, and some things you're going to want to look for are when it starts becoming more solid around the edges and possibly breaks down the middle. That means that the batter itself is starting to solidify, but it's still very not firm because it's so warm. And things you might want to look for in some tips are you can always undercook it. If you ever overcook it, your dessert's automatically you can't go back on it, just like cutting hair. You can always take so much away. So a trip is to always underbake, even if you have to do it in increments of 5 minutes, 10 minutes, just to get exactly what you're looking for. You can always stick a knife in the batter as well. If it comes out wet or not what you are expecting your ending result for the batter to look like, it's not done. So make sure you put it back in there again. And so after the 20 minutes or whenever you see your dessert is fit, it is time to move on to the final touches. You are going to want to take the brownies out and place them on a cool surface somewhere where it couldn't cause a fire or where probably animals couldn't get to it. And make sure you turn off your oven. Safety is a very big thing. You never want to leave it on, possibly doing a fire hazard. And there is a difference, believe it or not, or how long you cool it. I would say cool it for at least 20 minutes. That will solidify it and make it more dense and less crumbly when you're actually cutting it and trying to eat it, rather it falling apart. But if you are going to cool it at all, I would recommend doing it probably overnight or in the fridge, because then that adds to the richness and denseness that people usually are looking for in brownies, versus if you were comparing it to a cookie or a cake, it would be more fluffy, and then you could cool it less because you would need that kind of denseness in your batter. And so now you know how to bake a delicious dessert from scratch. Baking brownies from scratch can be enjoyable if done correctly. You will need all the ingredients that I said, as well as the main steps, which are mixing the ingredients, pre-baking preparations, baking the batter itself, and then the finishing touches. Next time you find yourself with some free time and want to cook something up really nice for your friends and family, make some homemade brownies. They're the best thing to do. Thank you.